Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope that my voice is loud and clear. An interesting topic occurred to me, and I thought, all right, let me be one of those human beings who dedicates himself into wondering about the source of this concept, God is not a shape. It's as if that sentence entered my mind, and it, in some sense, if I was a guitar, it'd strum all chords. You see, in the subtitle, I've also written Life's Geometry. And in order to explain God is not a shape, it's as if you break down the structure of that sentence, three questions arise. I've written them down. I've mapped some notes before this episode. So, in some sense, to wonder about if God, the sentence, God is not a shape, it's as if I need to first explain what do I mean by God. Then comes the second question. What do I mean by is not? What do I mean by the nature of being itself? It's more like God is a theological, philosophical inquiry, and being is an ontological, philosophical inquiry. And then I need to explain shape, what I mean by shape. Because if there is a chance that we are multidimensional beings, the significance of what is found in one dimension is in some sense completely veiled. So it's as if, imagine there's a house with like, I don't know, like let's say 5 rooms in it. And then this house that has 5 rooms, in some sense you're in one room. And based on one room, imagine a real estate agent that like teleports, with the home buyers into like a room of a house, and they're like, that's the only thing you can see. You can't see outside of the house, you cannot see the other rooms, but you can see the room you're in. And when we look at the human position, you see, to me, people on this planet, if you ask them what is the most important thing, of course there would be answers like love, then like knowledge, then like power, then health, and all of this, right? But if you think about knowledge specifically, that knowledge is the most important thing, because knowledge suggests your scope, how much you are actually receiving from the world you're in. So if knowledge is in some sense like the human position is left in like 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and these creatures are wondering about their dwellings, like they're wondering about their environment, and recognizing that if it wasn't bizarre enough that there's a sphere spinning around itself hovering in the middle of space, it's as if space is edgeless, and it's as if we as human beings have been revealed a certain percentage of actually what this world is. This is a very important starting point into really metaphysics. That means you have looked at the physics, you have appreciated the physics, and now you're wondering about what holds the physics. And so for human beings, it is advancement into the uncharted territory, not in front of their eyes only, but behind their eyes. It's as if from the scientific mind managed to fathom an observable universe and an unobservable part of the universe, right? So similarly, when you look at the human individual, we can, instead of applying that approach to the world, we can apply to the individual, that there is an observable self and there is an unobservable self. You see, the dimensions that something has suggests like how the idea can expand. So anyways, the starting point for human life is awareness to shape. To me, this was one of those remarkable, enlightening moments for me. Imagine first realizing that how would I tell you? First, realizing that I am not my thoughts. That means in 2011, that was really one of the first enlightening waves that hit me, where I realized, okay, there's no way I can be my thoughts because I am generating them and they're coming and going. It's as if right now I wonder about who am I, and a sort of image appears in my inner realms of myself. Then I ask the question again, another image, and so it's as if there is a new self constantly being simulated in every moment in every whim of the free will through attention. Then in some sense we are not our thoughts, or similarly an artist is not his artwork. It would be something like that. But anyways, there is an awareness. I was talking about the realizations I've had. Then the next realization was when I noticed the linguistic simulation, and this was very incredible because it was as if, imagine thinking that you're just this average person walking on this planet, not even caring about the future and outer space, and suddenly noticing that what brains are doing in regards to identity is, in some sense, we are clothing space with language. We are clothing space with language. Awareness is dressing in a subtler plane of reality, where I call it the inner realms. Think of it this way. Let's say I say the inner realms and somebody's like, hey, Mr. Within, what do you mean by inner realms? And I'll say this. It's like you looking at any object in front of you. Like right now I'm looking at this laptop in front of me, and I can close my eyes and still see this laptop. Now when I ask myself, where am I seeing this laptop? My eyes are closed, but there is some sort of vision reception. It's as if I am perceiving within me what is outside of me. Do you see? So that's a very important distinction to make. I keep going back to this. Excuse me, to continue. Upon recognizing that language is the shape of the subjective life of the human being, and recognizing that when I was a child, very young child, I have a memory where it was before I had an identity. I was just this little kid with I just remember the moment of sight, and there was no sense of subjective self. It's like I didn't know how to speak yet. It was just a moment of sight captured by the mind, right? So in some sense, the awareness to shape is as important or even more important than shape. Okay, so to speed this up a little bit, God is not a shape. What do I mean by God? There's a past, present, and future view I have on this. In the past, the religions have given me an archetype of what God is. When I look at it in the present, for me, God is not a concept personally, it's an experiential being. So it's as if you notice anything that has shape, in a changing world, the shape changes. So if a person fixes, let's say fixates a specific meaning to a shape, as that shape changes, the meaning disperses, right? So for me, in the being in the present, when the idea of God, comes to me it is in some sense how there is something moving at all in empty space. That is to me a sort of, a sort of clue for a universal intelligence at work. You see, it's as if it's a mystery of energy as much as it is a mystery of conception. And when I say a mystery of conception, I am saying that what we are considering to be our world is our known range of conception, and then there's the incredibly unknown range of conception. There's so many people on this planet who you ask them, you're like, are you, the person may say like, I'm not creative. I don't know, man, I don't have talent, I'm not creative. And I get shocked because it has nothing to do with what you have. It has to do with what you don't have, right? Because creativity is in some sense recognizing you're in this giant landscape. You have a unique DNA that nobody else has, meaning that you have eyes nobody else has, and pretty much the relationship of how you are an outer object and an inner subject and how that is rhythmically occurring in the world, that is where creativity comes. You see, to me, whether it is an artist that receives a sort of inner vision and draws, whether it is in some sense an inventor that receives an inner vision and builds, to me what it is all that really creativity can be is that there is an inner life and there is an outer life, and based on the freedom the inner life it gives itself, its outer life orchestrates. Like, I don't want to even get into the subconscious mind, because to me that is like it's kind of like a boat. Imagine a boat, but like at the bottom of the boat, vertically, it's like this giant submarine. Imagine this giant vertical submarine, okay? And it's like the top of the submarine is outside of the water. People are like, what a nice boat. But when they look at it, it's like this elevator shaft of like, like a giant submarine. So in the present, God to me is that which is moving the conceivable. I remember I saw this video on YouTube, and there was this gentleman talking about, this is just like, it relates to certain schools of thought in Eastern cultures, okay, where it's as if they had noticed what the ego was back in the day, but they did not know what is moving the ego. And those people who could even see outside of their ego, which means that the child is born with a biological urge of self-obsession. Everybody's like this. Why? Because if the self is not there, the touchstone for reality is like absent. So to me, in the present, it is an experience. To me, all these new age gurus are like, here and now, come to the here and now. Just everybody shut up and come to the here and now. Like all these new age gurus, let me tell you, it has nothing. It's like after you have come to the here and now, then you see true reality. Then your heart suddenly, like, let me tell you, I would say in this lifetime of mine, my heart did a 180. 100% my heart did a 180. And what do I mean by this? That my nature and how my attention in my youth was being utilized by my intelligence, and how my attention now is being utilized by my intelligence are so different, because for me, I have discovered a contentment with an unknown presence of my own being. To me, that is like the supreme. You see, it's like there is no concept. It's not like God is a sticker on a hidden door. For me, it is like the world is alive, and when a person is alive, how beyond just the concept are they? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Right? When you look at a person, let's say there's person A and person B and they're friends, and person A one day is nice to person B, and then the other day is rude to person B, okay? Now imagine person B is like, how dare person A be rude to me, and person B doesn't change his mind, realizing that every day that human beings log back into the conscious waking state, they are actually resetting the value system for their being. It's based on what happens to you, but not just what happens to you, how outer events echo inside. That means it's not just like, let's say something intense happens in the outer realms. It's not like it just happened there, you know? Let's say there's an accident. The accident sends off waves of significance, because really, as conceivable shaped creatures, we are bound to a sort of destiny where we have to value what is over what isn't, right? I have envisioned that maybe 4,600 years from now, like, that would become unnecessary. If human civilization is advanced and sophisticated and efficient, the ultimate destination it's going to get into is that biological creatures are pretty much going to have sex all over the cosmos, as far as we can reach. That becomes pretty much the aim. Right now, we're living on a planet and we're like, oh no, overpopulation. In my vision of Civ 2.0, it's as if, like, if you have sky cities opening up a three-dimensional axis, suddenly there wouldn't be overpopulation. Plus, if we are to become, like, if the human kingdom dares to, in some sense, conquer the cosmos, not with arrogance, but with the decency of the authorization of nature. You see, there are those who listen first and then speak, and then there are those who speak and then listen, right? But those, and what I mean by this is that now think about it, you're listening and speaking to a planet or a universal sector, right? So it's as if first you experientially receive the moment, then the moment's nature becomes like the standard settings of let's say, animate psychology. I am telling you, it's like the species doesn't have time. Like this whole thing that they're saying mental illness, right? Or mental health. And like I remember somebody in the comment section told me, Mr. Within, in the community section of the channel, somebody told me, Mr. Within, why don't you put some attention to like solve like the psychological problems of humanity? And let me tell you what my view on that is. Because to me, we don't have time to entertain inefficient visions, right? What that means is that it's as if, imagine, right, like a species on a rock that there is no rivers, okay? And everybody's thirsty. Okay, just imagine like a species thirsting for a greater, better dimension of access, better reality. Now imagine suddenly this thirsty species, a fountain emerges, you know? There's a very, also in the Islamic tradition, there's a very profound story of how a fountain appeared in the desert. You know, people should go look that up. Probably even stories of fountain of youth. Like there's some, when you look at culture, there is no cherry picking. It's as if it's a giant archive. You know, it's as if judgment in every moment, it's as if what you had access to is allowing what you could do. So suddenly, instead of now a fountain emerging for the thirsty, now it's like the inefficiency and indecency and dishonesty that we find in Civilization 1.0. It's as if as if the members of Civilization 1.0 suddenly realize that there is a possibility that it's not just what our ancestors left us, but if there is collective orchestration that is non-violent. You see, violence is like self-defeating usually. I mean, it's just the law of nature. Anything you let's say you punch a wall, the wall gives back the same stress in regards to a physical analysis. So what that means is that your force comes back at you. Any person that wields force, even me giving these talks, like these talks have an expressive value. Its expressive value enters the ears of the listeners, and then they see something to engage at all, you know. But what I'm trying to say is that it's like, alongside personality, there's an incredible energetic and experiential level to life. Anyways, back to what I was saying. That's my view on God in the present. It is an unknown walking alongside. It's like walking alongside an unknown experiential moment of just a happening. It moves on its own. what else can I say? If we move it, we conceptualize it. If it moves on its own, at least man can say, all right, that's unknown, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to witness with it. Now, how do I see the concept of God in the future? So think of it this way. I started the episode saying God is not a shape. It turned into 3 questions. What is God? What is being? What is shape? Now, I'm answering what do I mean by God, and I shared the past view. Religion gave that. In some sense, the present view, which is like an unknown direct experience rather than indirect ideology from ancient times. And now there's a view I have on God for the future. Okay? This may sound bizarre, but this is what I feel maybe our species is heading towards. You see, when I look at the human being is like a devouring creature. What does that mean? We consume. Energy bites into energy pretty much, okay? Rather than devouring nature, I'll say a consuming nature. Now, this consuming nature was on a physical level, but as we are taking steps towards the future, it is becoming on a mental level. That means it's like people's mental consumption or inner realm consumption of information is the threshold for it is so much higher than ancient times. So theoretically, in the future, their ability to process the information of the realm will be vaster, more multidimensional. So what we are seeing was like an unconscious object suddenly turning into a conscious subject. Okay? Now, when I think about, all right, so it's as if this object had a unique shape, it had the capacity to communicate and speak, and language is a very recent acquisition in comparison to how long the cosmos has been around, theoretically. So to me, what I feel is happening is that like the Drake song, he says, we started at the bottom, now we're here. It's as if we started at a singular dimension of just pure existence, and we are now experiencing that pure existence multidimensionally. So in some sense, the summit of human evolution was for a particle in a field to evolve into the recognition that it has been actually the field of intelligence. You see, when you want to conceive or conceptualize reality, we start with existence, and people feel that spirituality has to be something more than existence, right? But this existence is the most spiritual thing ever. It's the most transcendental, mysterious thing. I've written a quote here in my notes. I've written, shape is reality's conceivable. I can't read my own handwriting. I mean, I can read it, but I think it's something else. Shape is reality's conceivable. Okay, let's say shape is reality's conceivable. I don't know if I thought of container, but anyways, I'll move on. So pretty much I want to say that in the future, I consider an evolutionary movement of intelligence, and the human being can choose to go along for the ride, or it can choose to transmute or transform. But I feel that all what we are actually is like remote control bodies. And when I say remote control bodies, imagine like a remote control car or a drone camera. right? It's as if the source that is moving it is not the drone camera, but it is moving it. So pretty much it's like the brain is generating waves, and then the greatest realization of a brain generating waves is that the waves are where consciousness is occurring, not on the particle level of the neurology of the brain. So pretty much I'm saying that there is, think of it this way, that there's a person, and there's matter in space. The matter has the shape of a human, but the intelligence is in the space. So now when the intent of the space shifts, automatically all matter moves, all matter in the field of that space goes in orchestration of that. Now if you were to say, how does a shape have, how does a field of intelligence have intent, I would say these are waves hitting us. You know. So anyways, what I'm trying to get to is that we are individual objects now. In the future, we're going to be collective minds. Now, the collective mind is going to be space. Space is technically inconceivable being. You know, you can say there's conditional being and inconceivable being, conditional being and unconditional being. And conditional being is shape, unconditional being is space where the shape is in. You know, we think that like lines contain a space of the empty space of the paper, but actually the empty space of the paper is containing the shape. It's as if emptiness, fullness, and these are like levels to the dimension that we find, to this plane of existence. That means it's as if an airplane pilot was piloting the airplane, let's say between different elevations. When it comes to human intelligence and how free will is like a pilot of its body of existence, it's as if how the attention moves, its elevations are based on how dual or non-dual it is. So the more non-dual we recognize ourselves as beings, the more the future is going to become a collective mind. If we maintain duality, it's as if it becomes this strange situation that people were like, for how long is there going to be chaos and order, you know? And then an answer came, as long as you want to be an individual. As long as we are a self in the world, rather than being the world in the self, which is an eternal experience of the temporary, rather than a temporary experience of the eternal. It's as if shapes that evolved to an infinite capability of experiencing shape now wondered about what is their great transition. Culturally, I have termed this advancement beyond the language threshold, but if you were to think about it beyond human culture, you would see that geometry is the purest common denominator. That means, imagine, like in the future, aliens land down, and we human beings are like, we're like, okay, how do we greet these aliens, right? And so we get them a pizza. Okay, we make the greatest pizza chefs in the world be like, all right, now, you know, a global time to shine, right? So these aliens come down and we give them pizza, okay? Like, okay, let's say like, you know, like $15 pizza. You know, we give these aliens pizza, okay? And then it's as if, you know, we would in some sense wait for the aliens to consume that pizza. Okay, and then we would draw a circle and we would act like happy, right? And then they would be able to, in some sense, be like, okay, you know, you know, one of the most hilarious comedic situations, if unenlightened extraterrestrial consciousness enters the planet. Movies tend to demonstrate it that way, but when you realize true intelligence is field-like, you will see that higher dimensions, this is at least how I fathom it, that greater dimensions beyond this earth plane, they are in some sense fields of being. They are not, I am telling you, it's not, it's like beyond this room of earth, it's space that goes beyond the simulation. If you are matter inside a simulation, you are bound by change. You're shackled by karma. But if you realize in every moment of your life, whoever you are, you have been aware that you are aware of reality. Like you have been, there has been, it's as if like the mystery of what is that truly looking out through your eyes. In other words, is the universe spelled YOUNIVERSE? Where is reality going, right? It's as if the eyes are receiving light, where that light goes is as if it's like, you know what it is? It's honestly the distinction of an inner self and outer self. The inner self is unknown, the outer self is known. In the future, what God would be how we all collectively became timeless. A person cannot entertain a past without simultaneously creating a future. But because we fear the future and we keep it as unknown, we don't try to reach for the stars beyond our eyes. So anyways, I'll move on. So pretty much in the past, there was object worship, ideal worship. In the present is poetically experience worship, you know. And for the future, it would be as if experience and the space that holds matter will be inseparable. So when that moment comes, it's as if it's the post-paradise archetype. It is as if after you have experienced an infinite efficiency, which is what paradise implies, then you wonder, you go beyond shapes. You discover that what is actually here is the living presence of a universal sector. You know, this is something where, think of it as one of the meditations Mr.Within is telling people. I think every person should do this in this lifetime. At some point, go to some park or where there's nature, or even in your backyard, somewhere where there's grass on the ground. Okay? I would recommend, you could do it anywhere, okay? People can choose the settings, you know? But anyways, I'm saying that just in this lifetime, go to a grassland, go to somewhere where there's nature, and put your palm, your right palm, on the ground, and either kneel with one knee or squat, and just put your palm on the ground, and for a moment acknowledge the living matter of the realm. In some sense, it's to be chained by shape. That is the whole point of samsara. To get out of samsara is another way of saying that you realize if reality was a simulation, or how the ancients considered it as a dream, this dream is kept by shape. This was like pretty much my third grade realization. You know, I realized what reality is access to form, access to like endless micro mini dualistic systems in every moment. That means every situation has so many angles to it, you know. This is one of the biggest truths you can realize. A person could be like, I'm good, right? Then realize there's so many different potentials of action. So it's like a recognition that behind your inner life is multidimensional, your outer life is singular, existential. So what the soul can poetically, this is I guess on a tangent, but it's important to say, what the soul can poetically be is in some sense just like a video game, where imagine there's one giant multiplayer physical map, you know, one world, like one cyberspace world. So it's, in some sense, for the human being, it's as if in front of our eyes we are characters that have entered a physical game. Instead of it being made of pixels, it is in some sense made of like particles. And I should have said something about what is God. What do I mean by God? That just pretty much think of it, there's an inconceivable context to it, and there's a conceivable context to it. In the conceivable context, it's as if in order for man to know that God has made man, man must first make the concept of God, must first access somehow the archetype, you know. Anyways, so pretty much the quality of either there's intelligence in the room or not. When I say God is not a shape, that means in the dimension of shapes intelligently being changed in the world, the shape is not the focus, point. Oh my God. Excuse me. Anyways, that's enough of that, you know. There is not explanation. Now, shape. Now, this goes to the subtitle, the last question, what do I mean by shape? To me, shape is a divine clue. It is a transcendental, one of the most transcendental and bizarre things, you know. Just the fact that there is containment in space. As if shape being the outline to reality. Like the person looked at an artwork and was like, yo, look at this artwork. It has such a unique shape. And let's say they looked at the Mona Lisa, okay? And then they suddenly imagine the person now looks at their whole moment of experiencing life being like an artwork and wondering about, okay, what is the shape of my life? The shape, right? And so again, opening up in the outer realms, genetics, in the inner realms, the painter is holding the brush. The true shape of what we consider as outer life is an inner awareness to it. Again, behind our eyes, we're alive in multidimensional ways. Behind your eyes, it's a multiverse, it's super obvious. But in front of your eyes, maybe so, you know. God is not a shape if it is held in an inconceivable context. This is like realizing every religious person is worshipping the inconceivable. You know, there is a passage in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a passage that was so remarkable, so supreme for me, so majestic, this passage, where pretty much it's like, for those who don't know what the Bhagavad Gita is, pretty much there's this archer in battle who doesn't want to fight, and God, the avatar of God, through the form of Krishna, appears to this archer named, royal archer named Arjuna. And then it's as if God has appeared to the soldier who doesn't want to fight, and then reveals like the secrets of the universe. Pretty much, it's one of the greatest stories ever told. But anyways, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a passage where Krishna is telling Arjuna for all those yogis, or let's say truth seekers, who they choose to have an intermediary shape. That means if they choose to believe in the avatar of God, it's fine, but it is unauthorized in the sense that it's as if God is telling Arjuna that the direct connection to the source of all being, that is the purest and healthiest, esoterically speaking, approach. Right? That means honesty is like a shortcut to the moment where direct experience and direct existence are meeting. You see, for me, it's like I've had moments in this life where I've gotten scared, and what has happened to my inner realms is that the probabilities my mind was functioning through in that moment began to, in some sense, doubt themselves and crack. Right? So what I mean by that is that a person's ability, physical strength, all right, protein shakes, but inner strength, outer strength is protein shakes, inner strength is how mighty and how far and advanced your mind has fathomed how the next moments will arise, right? Beyond the alarms of a civilization chained to its indecency, ignorance, and dishonesty. It's as if, when will we get to see an advanced civilization aimed for the stars? That is the ultimate thing. We master the dimensions on Earth, and then the sky becomes our home, and then beyond the sky, it's as if we were a cosmic being from the beginning. We just hadn't stepped out of the belief, we hadn't stepped out of the cave of belief. And when I say belief, it's not per se a religious belief, because religious belief is another way of saying trust this system that was here before you were born. But really, the advancement of the mind arises when the person first tries to figure out what are the dimensions that constitute their own psychological awareness to their physiology, to their body. So it's as if it's like, this is like the person's like, all right, I have a mind. Now the next question is, what is this mind doing? How is this mind holding itself? And then eventually the questions get closer to what is the mind. And I would say one of the most supreme states of psychology that can occur for human beings on this planet is when they realize what is looking through their eyes is not a shape. So it's this strange situation where it's as if the entertainment of the gods, and the entertainment of the gods that was the entertainment of God, okay? It's as if it's all, you know what it is? It's like we started as thinking that the world is happening because of the brain, and then we realize the brain is happening because of the world. We are like a puzzle piece that has stepped out of the, let's say, puzzle, and in some sense is wondering why it is disconnected from nature. It's like once the puzzle is solved, once the being realizes, oh my God, evolution's destiny is back into the unknown. That means perhaps a slogan for those future human beings who are going to attempt immortality. It's like from the void back into the void. Heaven was a choice. You see, that is reality. It doesn't matter what one moment is when the whole universe is right here. You see, it's as if, think of it this way, the universe, imagine like, okay, this might be a ridiculous metaphor, but I'm going to attempt a medieval metaphor here. Imagine back in the day when there was let's say there was a kind king and there were like peasants, okay? Let's say there was a cruel king, right? And there was like the whole peasant class. Now I want you to imagine all human beings are like peasants, okay? And then suddenly this cruel king changes its mind and suddenly brings resources for all the peasants, right? And so it's as if the psychology of the peasants are like, yeah, give me. You know, and the same is happening for truth, believe it or not. From shapeless intelligent space to shaped non-intelligent, non-matter, you know. I shouldn't say non-matter, pretty much it's like the world is a coin. And we're walking on the edge, and regardless of how the peasants treat the king of the universe, which is the God archetype, the inconceivable king, as if humans back in the day, they saw a king. And then imagine now somebody was like, yo, what if the whole cosmos is a kingdom? Who is the true king of this kingdom? And it's poetically as if the king is invisible. You know, that's the whole religious context. Theology is about man's ultimate analysis leading towards a submission to the greater dimensions of possibility. You see, it's as if man doesn't know what to do, but God knows, right? This is the religious angle, right? And so because God knows, man doesn't. Man's like, all right, God, I'm gonna put down my ego, right? And I'm just gonna be this peaceful, you know, a peaceful moment of being that, like a museum, doesn't touch any karmic turbulence, you know. And then, in some sense, what happens is that, you see, it's as if it's like the maturity of the psychology of the individual human being, right? This is where it leads to eventually, where if the person treats themselves as a child of God, right? In some sense, the children of God, this is like, I don't want to make this controversial here. I'll say this. If all creation is the child of the Creator, now that creation is choosing whether it wants to imagine like your father's getting old and you choose to help your father, for example. Now imagine the father is God, right? We can even say how worlds grow old, how worlds grow old, how dimensions grow old is that they become inconceivable. Our species should not fear the shock of many new realities entering the system. This whole thing that the planet's like disliking globalization, it's like I don't understand it, right? It's such a past fear-based mindset, right? It's as if imagine you are your kingdom, you're a general, mighty general of a kingdom, and now imagine this kingdom is the whole species, okay? And so this general realizes the kingdom is at siege, right? In two dimensions. In the outer realms, there's a, imagine battle, right? And imagine in the inner realms, there's a battle. The battle of the inner realms with the outer realms, it can instantly be resolved, which is pretty much what enlightenment is contentment with being, regardless of what is being done. That's enlightenment, guys. Have you noticed that you can be content instantly? That instant contentment, it's not something the person, it's not a unique psychological alignment. I would say it is more a wondering about realizing that what is looking out through your eyes is an intelligence that is watching shapes in both dimensions of mind and body. You are an unknown witness, or I'll create a word here. You're an unknown witnesser, a witnesser of, an outer occurrence. There's so many things in this life, that this is why I feel like it's like when a person comes to the here and now, a ridiculous humility hits them, and then after humility has been experienced, gratitude comes. Humility, think of it as the simplest state of being. Right now, if I wanted to be super humble, I'd be like I'm just attention in the room. People are like, Mr.Within is so humble that he is inconceivable. Oh, man. Okay, I need here, I'll pay attention to the chat section. In the chat section, a user says, here on earth, man is God. You're God in your inner realms, not the outer realms. The outer realms, the forces of nature are pulling the strings. I mean, come on. It's as if the person's like, I'm a god, but I can't control gravity, unfortunately. In the inner realms, you can. In the outer realms, you can't. The outer realms, we are a servant of the world. Behind our eyes, the world is a servant of your inner realms, which is another way of saying sensory reception. And you know what's incredible? That there is even a world here to see. Right? I don't think people take that in. It's as if imagine, a traditional family praying at the table before dinner, and during one of the prayers, let's say somebody is saying the prayers at the family dinner table, right? And the person's like, I am grateful that, we are on a planet that is not so close to the sun to burn and not so far to freeze, and has a sort of unique access and relationship with light and the forces of nature. The rest of the sentence was just happening in my inner realms. I'll say it this way. The prayer goes on and the person says, I am grateful for how there is a mysterious consciousness taking place where existence is instantly received as the being phenomena. It's like, you know what it is? It's as if you become grateful for the mystery of the realm, and you realize that the living world is a companion. This is my ultimate attitude, for now at least, with the planet, where I'm like, all right, I'll be a friend to the realm. Cruelty may come, right? But the thing is, there's this story which I think everybody knows, but I'll say it again. first keep in mind your most advanced effort in any direction you pilot in. It's like whatever you do, have an effortless context behind your mind, and you'll be fascinated how much energy you have in your inner realms. You know, it's as if once the brain is content with the presence of the moment, then the brain is not throughout the day simulating senses of self. It is watching the day happen, and as the day happens, it like the soul of the moment animates radically. Okay? We cannot avoid realizing that we were all mystics from the beginning. A mystic, the best definition I've heard of it is that a mystic is a lover of the unknown. When I talk about God is not a shape, I don't have a sort of intent to break things. For me, it's as if everything has greater dimensions to itself as long as the human mind is participating in the world story. You see, every day I wake up, if I go based on my past, everything makes sense. Everything has logical meaning. But if I go based on my present, the unknown variables increase. But when I go to my future, when I think about the future, it's like all my unknown future selves are staring at me as I am giving this talk. Think of even somebody who engages reincarnation, right? The person's like, oh yeah, I have past lives, then definitely I have future lives. And imagine the person starts giving a podcast not only for the outer realms, but for the inner realms, for his own future self. You know, that means don't just live in accordance to your past self's value system or value simulation, and try to wonder about who you would be if you had an effort that surpassed all the conceivable dimensions you have now. For me, the inner realm is like, buddy, you've been given an unknown advanced technology, you know, which is this human organism. And so how does the human organism truly use, as if imagine your DNA is like a unique instrument. How during this lifetime is this instrument activated and the greatest melody of its capacity is demonstrated? How? Right? And let me tell you, when the Sufi mystics, at least in the East, back in the day, like thousands of years ago, they had this saying, those of the likes of Hafiz, okay, and even Rumi and Attar, where they would say, you need to die to yourself, right? And there's even Saint Francis of Assisi from the Christian tradition, right? Where he says it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. That self is the humility which from the religious context is but the purity of the inner realms is reverse engineering back to who you were before you were a sense of who. That is true mysticism right there. For me, I would say another angle I can share with the audience how my personal view on metaphysics, that means how I treat my inner realms, is that I have had moments of experience where my eyes have been closed and I've experienced myself as a purely geometrical entity, you know, purely shape-based creature, you know. When I say shape, that means like perfect geometry, like platonic solid level. I feel I could potentially be one of the people on this in the history of humanity that accessed Plato's world of forms, I think it was called. Pretty much the ancient Greeks, they saw life, and regardless of the story, the god system or whatever, it was as if it was just pure shape. It's as if just like how we see matter, right? Or like reality having a dimension of weight, it's like it has a dimension of shape, you know? Everybody, I personally feel this subconsciously, is a master designer and artist. Everyone. Everyone harbors a gift from their own inner world, right? That means that would be the greatest use of the mind, your greatest performance before you had to exit there. This experience I've had with geometry, and when I say life's geometry, is that the geometrical dimension is very safe to travel, to move in, but it is not, it is beyond the humanized archetype. What I mean by this is that imagine we look at everything and we're like, everything's energy. Now imagine energy is shape. So if everything is shape, everything is like energy. And what's even more bizarre, in order to even fathom in physics the Big Bang theory, it's as if we have to fathom that there was temperature prior to the shape of the particle, which means we had to believe in space before we could have beliefs on matter. And if space is the empty page where reality, where matter is in, it's as if the nature of the space is left for the mind, you know, and your mind is how you're being present as an intelligent moment of being. Everybody is this. Everybody is just an instant of awareness. Oh, it's like attention and existence. You know, their intersection point is the platform where the consciousness can pilot through ideology, or, you know, whatever there is in the ignorance for the person. So I feel like the episode I've shared enough. Pretty much, we are in shape, we are conceivable entities. The idea of God being inconceivable means God is beyond shape. If the archetype of God is beyond shape, that means the source of the conceivable is inconceivable. That means this world will never make sense to us scientifically in the observable dimension of the universe, because its source, its roots are like in the soil of the unobservable universe. So if that is the case, we are left with culture interpreting the cosmology. And when I say culture, that means it's like the blacksmith believed in Thor. The spearman believed in Odin. Arjuna believed Krishna, and the moment he believed Krishna, it was another way of saying he trusted the unknown presence of the universe. And when he did, there's even a passage, I don't think I ever fully completed this idea. Oh no, I did. But anyways, there's another passage in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna, this God, reveals his true form. So throughout this whole conversation with Arjuna, it's an avatar of Krishna. You know, it's a mask. You know, the gods that have shape and you worship, they are the mask for the inconceivable source of being. And the concept of a source even becomes inconceivable before we reach the inconceivable. The human intelligence needs to have an incredible ability to utilize wonder and develop efficient systems. I had this vision where if somebody was like, hey, Mr. Within, how do we quickly advance civilization? I'd be like, every human being has to instantly find a simplicity and honesty. They have to come to that type of moment of world. That means it's as if the world is too simple to fail. So simplistic effort is like mighty. You know, it's like the fool's strength, you know. Because the fool doesn't have a boundary, self-limitation. Pretty much reality is the adventure of shapes in the board. That's really what we are, you know. Pretty much a person can say like we're energy. Right now, when we even realize, like, you can say the body is in time, but the mind creates is generating or simulating the concept of time. So the mind is in a timeless space. The inner realms are in a timeless, unconditional potential of reality. You see, we are journeying. We are travelers of the realm. God reveals his true form to Arjuna, and guess what happens? Arjuna gets overwhelmed. It's as if he sees something about the beyond, he sees something beyond time, and his past instantly evaporates. Why? Because there is so much more than what we have, the road we have traveled. It's like the future is, for the mind, it's like how it's creating its road. And for me, I feel that our civilization, now I want to speak about the outer realms and advanced civilization, the architecture is going to become, it's as if like, pretty much we're gonna have skyscrapers that go beyond the atmosphere, giant pillars, right? Or you know what it is? We're gonna build interstellar connecting giant, like, you know, there's something in 2015 which I never had the time to complete. I wanted to write this giant kind of book series called The Pillars of Civilization. And I had such a unique vision of this pillars, but in regards to a metaphoric value, that it's as if all human beings are contributing, and we're in some sense building this giant pillar, and at the top of this pillar, like a tree, its branches are going to come into the atmosphere. So imagine a giant tree-like interstellar, a giant tree, I shouldn't say interstellar, a giant tree city. But the branches of the city go beyond the atmosphere, and what appears as sky cities could just be the branches of that. And then eventually we'd master sky cities, you know? Or probably, like, my whole vision is like all buildings are going to become spaceships. Like, that's their destiny. The destiny of real estate is it's not like people are going to sell like, you see this, if okay, let's say there were sky cities and somebody was like, okay, how do we create laws for these sky cities, right? And what you do is you create sectors, or you create zones, and to live in, like, let's say a sky city is to pay a membership for that zone. This is if money is still like important at that point, you know. Our species could maybe transition to a point and be like, yo, we're all just creatures trying to get by. What is the most, you know, it's as if like you don't want, it's like in order to be an advanced communicator and an advanced civilization, the world has to be advanced from the beginning. And if God is not a shape, and let's say you're religious and hearing me, so it means you are the creation of the Creator, which means what moves the ego is the universal intent to trust yourself, but not your ideological self. To trust your true self is another way of saying, it's as if it's another way of saying how Swami Krishnananda, he says religion is God remembering himself. So that remembrance of self is an inconceivable universality. I'm going to create a word, cosmoality. So I'll open it up to Q&A because there are questions in the chat section before I end off. Ruth says, then who is the inner God that makes my dreams? Is it a who? Have you ever thought that could it be that we are conditioned into humanhood and our true state is actually dehumanized? This doesn't mean that the person should let go of all their spiritual imagery, in their psyche, but what it means is that those who entertain the unknown and acknowledge the presence of a living universe, that is the station of wisdom. Those who function through that, it's like imagine a build for a game. So it would be like it would be an algorithm. It would be a great filter. It's as if imagine, some genius inventor built these sunglasses where when you look through these sunglasses, anything you looked at, you'd see advanced future probabilities of it, right? And they called it efficiency glasses, right? The wonder of reality is here. When it comes to shape, there isn't even like a dualistic mystery. Like there isn't just asymmetry, there's symmetry. You see, it's as if there is a huge chance that just like the yin-yang symbol, as I am in, let's say, once in the yang side of the coin, my soul is the yin circle and the black part of the yin-yang circle, right? Now, it could be that on the other side of this coin, simultaneously, there's a parallel dimension where the soulless version of me is in a world of pure soul. So it's another way of saying it's like a shapeless observer inside a observable shaped world, and now on the other side, parallel dimension from where I am sitting right now, it's as if there is a shape in the shapeless. My mind has entertained all angles as so far to my ability, right, in regards to what can happen to the human idea. I have pretty much put what I have witnessed as my direct experience of existence on like an inner realm table, and like a designer, I have wondered about what are the ways that it is remaining, right? And anyways, Ruth, to answer your question, who is the inner God that makes my dreams? It is the unknown presence of the whole moment instantly being. When you realize the unknown was here first, then the God does not have a shape. It cannot have a shape. In ancient mythologies, they have this idea of Mother Earth and Father Sky, and the human being was the child of the sky and the land. So similarly, it's a metaphor for we are in two dimensions. As I am physically, as I am a physical body in an outer realm where the edge of the universe is space, I am simultaneously a mind in a realm of potential shape. That Saint Francis of Assisi quote where he says, it is dying to self that we are born to eternal life. It's not a dying, It's resetting. I would say that it's as if resetting to self. What was the quote? In dying to self, in resetting to self, we are unborn to eternal life. Anyways, next question. A user says floating or connected to the earth, both. A user says what creates the shapes we see. It's the presence of your, it's awareness. Awareness is unconditional intelligence. Consciousness is conditional intelligence. So when you're wondering about what is looking through your eyes, it's as if it's an instantaneous, so it can't be in time. It's just like a instant, right? There isn't another moment to give it time. It's like the source of our intelligence is just an instantaneous presence of being the whole moment. That's really what the mind is doing. The body is in the mind, right? Like a sphere with something in it, okay? Right? Imagine a person inside a glass sphere, giant glass sphere. That glass sphere is poetically the mind, the edge of our universe. A user says, do you think we see the entire shape of things? Obviously no, but we also don't see how what is seeing shape is not shape. And that is really what the word metaphysics exists for. You see, to me, I was like, there's so many people who, it's as if you don't just wonder about the history of outer events, you wonder about the history of inner events of your species, and you're like, why is there even a concept of soul? Why is there even a concept of God? Why is there even a story to something that is unfathomably ever-changingly vast, A user says if things are energy, light, how do we pick it up and move it? If you don't pick up light, because light is how you see an environment. So light has picked you up, right? Light enters our eyes, and then there is a world to see. Similarly, there is like an unknown entrance of attention, and then within it comes the conceivable. Here's the thing. The idea is, this is my general advice to everyone. This is pretty much what meditation is, really. That you stop, you just go and sit down somewhere, wherever you are. But I'm just saying, just go and sit down somewhere, preferably in nature, or wherever you are, whatever. Just sit down, cross-legged on the ground. And the reason I'm telling you sit down on the ground, like if you're in the kitchen, sit down on the kitchen ground. Why? Because it makes you humble, right? So just sit down, right? And when you sit down, for a second, put the story of the world like a video game on pause. You're not trying to destroy your ego, you're just pausing the ego. And for a second, look at your moment as if you have just arrived. As if you just opened your eyes for the first time. What am I looking at, right? And wonder, you have one lifetime to do this, to wonder what your intelligence is about, what your intelligence is, right? And hopefully in an advanced civilization, we will have inner realm researchers as well. You pretty much wonder about what you are. You realize its experiential source is an unknown presence, but because it's an experience nobody can tell you, you gotta experience. And the moment you experience the unknown, it's as if knowledge is intelligently moving in unknown space. Knowledgeable, a knowing object realize its true source of its knowledge. It's as if, like, think of it this way. Light, imagine like a hall of mirrors where light is echoing, right? Not echoing. Light is reflecting off the mirrors. Now imagine light enters your eyes, and then it reflects off to your inner realms, and then in your inner realms it hits the free will's decision, right? I'll say it this way. Light enters your eyes, From your eyes, that light beam reflects into a concept or view behind your eyes, and then from that light beam reflects off from the inner realms to the unknown witness, which is the presence. You're the source of the present, pretty much. And then, like, your psychological fear dissipates because you are the source of how you're being an intelligent entity. This is why, to me, like, true self-help is like, you don't, if nobody can tell you, then it wouldn't be self-help. Do you know? Light is not, you see, picking up is humanized. Light is on a pure existential geometric level of a phenomenology, right? It's as if light is, I don't know what the most current new view is, but it's as if they saw light as particles, as photons. But in certain states, these photons can also be waves, right? Whatever it is, light is an information carrier system. And this information enters your inner realms, and then you notice that you are noticing it has entered in your inner realms. You pretty much notice your thoughts. That's how you're not them. Okay, so what I mean is that really what light is the parts that it's like parts of the color spectrum that didn't get access to come through, you know. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say in response to the question is that when you realize it's unknown, you can't just take an ideological approach, because you will be left in your, it's like your mind is happening before the world is happening, so it's giving meaning to the world. But if in meditation the mind just watches, you're just there, you know, just being here without any need for an additional inner realm image, right? If you realize that is the simplest, that is the presence of conscious intelligence truly, you become liberated from conceivable shape. It's like even Aristotle said, it's the sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. Why? Because it's as if, why fill up the hard drive with the content of a changing world? You select. Honestly, I gave an episode called A Freedom Beyond Freedom, and it's really that. It's a freedom from ideological story-like freedom. Once you realize that, then you will become a pilot. You don't need to be a passenger. Your own intelligence, it's as if you honor your mind and your mind honors you back. But this honor has to be authentic. And when I say authentic, it's humility. Its foundation is a sort of humility for the unknown. That means when I give these talks, like what I share, sure, people are going to be like, okay, this is what this guy knows. But I'll tell you, for me, when I speak, my past is like a comrade. My memories are all my past senses of self are like an army standing behind me. And we are all looking at the future. You see, and the future is either it's like you build it, you design it, or it designs you. And the choice is the free will's might. That means if we say we're advanced beings, then advanced expectations for humanity. But if we say we're not advanced beings, and it's like let the human being live like how the bird on the branch is living, just building a nest, just staying content with its small world. It's as if when there's larger ones out there, when there's bigger mysteries beyond our own beliefs on what we are, right? It's as if it's a journey. It's as if like a roller coaster ride. And imagine during a roller coaster ride, the person's just like, I'm gonna close my eyes, and just be present, beyond adopting the responsibility of the biology. You see, when it comes to my mind, it's a field. But when it comes to my body, then there's a meaning, there's a purpose. It's as if like, it's the question is not why am I born? The question is, why is there a 4.5 billion year? Why did it take 4.5 billion years? It's like, why is there a 4.5 billion year old evolutionary being that has access to phenomena and noumena, inner phenomena, which is a word Immanuel Kant says. In the chat section, a user says I'm going to wrap this Q&A up after this, guys. A user says, how does one see through the veil, truly see? You see, the fact that you want to truly see, right, means you feel you can't see. And because you feel you can't see, subconsciously, you don't feel you deserve to see, right? But the attitude should be that you should be like, just think about it for a second and be like, okay, let's say there is something such as truth, and this truth is beyond all veils of perception. Just by thinking in a common sense way about it, if there is truth in the room, it means truth is instantly here. It's instant. So it's another way of me saying all the things you want to see beyond the veil, let's say an ideological veil, beyond the veil, you're being it instantly. But being is not knowing as a person. It's like, it's just instant activation, instant happening, right? That means the greater stage for the evolution of the human psychology is rhythm and flow. And advanced civilization is going to be incredibly smooth. Not only in a way where, saxophone players feel like honored, but smooth in a way where it's just efficient. It's like you open the door of your, flying home balcony, right? And before, you jump into, let's say, an invisible train passing by, or before you, use your sound-based jetpacks and go, I'm just saying that this whole time, the potential of an advanced civilization has been right here. It is a diamond in the dirt that it's like it's in our hand, but our hand is in the dirt, right? And it's as if we require to pull out the greatness of civilization 1.0 and in some sense consider that as the ability, of the potential ability of starting civilization 2.0. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. And if you're interested to know more about the concept of a veil, I'm sure I've spoken about it before. There's episodes you can search. The channel, I guess an announcement is that I'm pretty much restructuring again the whole thing. But anyways, feel free to comment below how this sentence, God is not a shape, comes across to you, or how when you read the title at first, what idea came to you.